Hey y'all, it is Nikki. Welcome back to the channel. I have had a very productive and somewhat restful week over this past reading break. I was able to get my wall of quotes done, which you guys saw from my video last week, which was really great because it's one of those things that you just do not have time to get to when school is in full swing. And so it was really awesome to be able to take some time to do something just like crafty and artsy for once. That's another thing that I do want to be better at going forward, is actually taking a break from even just writing to do just some other creative things and keep the creative juices flowing in other ways. I've seen other writers talk about that, about how it's important to actually have like a few different creative avenues so that when writing isn't really working, or when you just need a break and need to turn your writing brain off and do something else, you have something to go to. Just for fun, over the break, I picked up one of my absolute favorite books just to take a peek, to remember why I loved it. And as soon as I did, it was like, I need to read this all the way through again for like the third time because it's just so good. And that book is Rook by Sharon Cameron. I believe it's based on an old classic book, but one that I've never read. It's an indie book. It's sort of a heist novel. It's like a little bit back in time, but also in the future. Just really creative premise and so beautifully written. I love it so much. But as soon as I started reading this, I realized that there actually are some books that I want to read to do research for some of my current projects. This book in particular is a little bit of a heist novel. And once I started reading it, I realized that that could be really useful for some of the projects that I have on the go or that I have sort of in my pipeline for in the future. I have one story that I want to write with like an ensemble cast that is very much centered around a sort of like crime thieving ring sort of situation. And so Rook will be really helpful for figuring out some of the dynamics of that. But there are lots of other things that I need to research in order to make some of my projects work. For example, sailing. In my fantasy project right now that I have beta readers reading, I don't have to get too much into the sailing aspect of the story, but in the next installment of the book, I definitely will. There will be a way bigger sailing sort of piratey storyline, and I realized that I do not know very much about ships or how the ocean works or any of that. I mean, you guys know I've literally seen the ocean once in my entire life. To remedy that, I recently started reading the YA book Fable, which is a book that I've really been curious about for a long time just because the cover is so gorgeous. I started reading the audiobook on my way home from school yesterday, and I'm trying to just like keep track of all the like boat terminology that she throws out so that maybe I can like absorb some of it by diffusion and then regurgitate those terms when I go to write something boatish. Passenger by Alexandra Bracken is another one that revolves a lot around like sailing and stuff. I read that too long ago to remember all the terminology, but that's another one that I could pick up again. And then there's a book that combines both heists and ships, which is Six of Crows, which I read a while ago, and I do have some mixed feelings about it, but I did really enjoy the read. It was very engaging, and I mean, as heist novels go, it was just a mind-blowing heist novel. I do not have a criminal mind. Like, I am not a schemy person. So I really struggle to come up with like plans and to be clever in that way. When these characters are coming up with these elaborate sort of schemes for how to get into the place that they need to break into and all their little diversions and coming up with roles for everyone on the team, that just blows my mind. I remember reading Six of Crows and trying to just absorb it. Like, okay, how do you do this? How do you write this? Because I really would like to write a heist novel. That is like on the top of my list. Somewhere up there with writing a Peter Pan retelling, but it might be even higher because there have been lots of Peter Pan retellings. There's something just so fascinating about that level of competence in a character where they just have all the skills they need to do something awesome that I could never pull off. I find that so fascinating, and I think that other people do too, or else we wouldn't have a heist genre. Hypercompetence is just something that people love in characters, which is something that I really appreciate about most of the heist novels I've read, is that that is not something typically that they're starting without and having to learn. It's something that they have when we meet them, and that I really love in stories because I've realized this about myself. The competence growth arc is not my favorite arc. For example, in fantasy writing, I don't need to see the character doing sword practice. I really don't care about that. I would rather he just be great at the sword when I meet him. Often growing in competence requires you to have a mentor, and the mentor also isn't really my favorite trope, so there are just a few reasons why I personally don't love that and why I really love it when you just meet a character who is already super competent but has to grow in other ways, character ways. Heist novels are really great for that because they usually already have that skill set, but they need character growth in order to make that skill set something that's not just bad and used for bad purposes. Which is tricky because, I mean, stealing isn't really good, but that's the mark of a really cool book, I think, when you can take that set of skills and apply it to a character's arc in a way that actually does make them a better person by the end of the story. Ugh, I just think that's so cool. Because ultimately for me, that is what makes a powerful story, a redemption arc, where a character and their skills get redeemed for something even better and a better purpose than they ever imagined. That's what God does for us, and that's what I love doing with characters. So I am trying to take notes, not only on boat terminology and how to run a ship and all that kind of stuff, but on how to scheme in a book, how to write schemy characters, how to make a plan, how to pull off a heist. Not for me, but for my characters. I think it will require me to sort of retrain my brain a little bit, but by reading these books and sort of taking note of how these characters think, I'm hoping that I can get a little bit more of a feel for how to write a character like that and to get inside the head of a character like that. I would also love to do just an entire video about Rook and all the things that I absolutely love about Rook, but I want to finish reading it again first so that I can remember all the things that I love about it and so that I don't miss anything. But really, this is probably my favorite indie book in the entire world. Go read Rook. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to like and subscribe and comment below with, I don't know, like a YA heist novel or a YA ship sailing kind of novel that you would recommend for research purposes. And as always, do not forget to spend some time in the clouds today.